There is one huge factor that DC is missing from its movies, and I believe it's one of the biggest reasons why the DCEU failed, and if the DCU makes the same mistake, then it won't succeed either. Hey everyone, welcome back to our movie news. The DCEU's box office has been a huge disappointment since 2019, and I think I know the reason for it. This one factor has been excluded from the DCEU's movies, and I really miss it. For me, the lack of it is why I'm not enjoying them as much anymore. This is just my opinion on the matter and why I'm not personally enjoying DC as much anymore, so if you disagree, that's completely fine. Let's have a conversation about it in the comments below. And my problem with DC is the lack of seriousness from the DCEU. Now, before I go any deeper, I want to make it clear that there is a difference between serious and dark. I'm not saying DC needs to be dark, I'm saying it needs to be serious. Not every project needs to be like the Batman or Joker, but for me what they need to be is serious. We need to be taking these characters and storylines seriously again. People have been talking about a superhero fatigue, and what I really think is happening, specifically for DC, is generic comedy fatigue. Now, I think humor can be a really incredible tool in superhero movies. However, the quantity of that humor has massively increased in the past few years, and the quality of that humor has massively decreased. Now, I love comedies, I really do, they're one of my favourite genres of movies. However, when it comes to DC films, I don't like it when the humour is the focus and the stakes of the situation have to take a step back for some jokes to be made. If there are jokes being made frequently, even throughout what's meant to be the most intense parts of the movie, then I start losing interest. Because it feels that no matter what the villain tries to do, the hero isn't worried because they're making jokes all the time. So the stakes must not be that high. I'm not saying that humour has to be taken out though, just toned down a lot. Humour has a time and a place, and I think it works best in DC films when it's not the focus. When these characters and stories are taken seriously, I think audiences can become far more invested in these films. My favourite DC live-action projects are Superman 1 and 2, the Dark Knight trilogy, the Flash TV show from seasons 1 to 3, The Batman, the Snyderverse trilogy, and Wonder Woman 1. They all take the stories seriously. They don't leave humour out, but instead of overshadowing the overall story with persistent jokes, they actually complement the film's tone and offers a nice contrast from the serious moments. For me, DC is at its best when the movies are taken seriously with humour placed carefully here and there. Whereas what I think a lot of DCEU films have been doing recently is having humour take the focus and having the serious moments as a rarity, which I think leads to this lack of care and interest from the audience, which has become quite a common thing in comic book movies since 2019. All these films are feeling the same. They feel generic, like I've seen them 100 times before. What made me fall in love with DC was how different they were to Marvel. The MCU had a higher saturation of humour than DC did, and so when watching a DC film, it felt so different to a Marvel film. It was serious, it was deep, and it felt so unique. Now the Marvel films and the DC films just blend together and feel the same. There's no unique identity to them anymore. And don't get me wrong, I understand that some DC characters aren't serious characters. I get that. When characters who aren't serious are being used, I don't expect serious movies. I just want to see more serious DC films. I just think DC are at their best when they're making serious films. When they use comedy as the focus, I feel they lose a lot of that quality. And we seem to be only getting comedic DCEU films now. Hopefully that changes with the DCU, which I doubt with James Gunn taking charge. I just miss being able to watch DC films and know that the stakes are high, the characters will take them seriously, and the film won't be focused on making jokes. I also think comedic superhero films are easier to make. And the more generic jokes they shove in there, the easier it is to create, as less effort is being put into telling a serious story. So it kind of feels a bit like lazy storytelling. It also massively damages the rewatch value for me. As a DC fan, I like to rewatch DC films. especially when they are in a cinematic universe. Rewatching them allows me to recap what's gone on in the universe before watching the latest movie in the theaters. It allows me to be more invested into the franchise and helps me follow along with the larger storyline. But when those movies have a high level of humor, those jokes lose their impact. They start moving from slightly funny to annoying. And it's even worse when I know those annoying jokes could have been replaced by powerful moments, or character development, or even just simple moments that allow the plot of the film to flow far better. I want to emphasize that this is my own opinion. I know you may disagree, which is fine. I'm not trying to state my opinion as a fact. I just feel that DC needs to return to making serious films again, or at least be the main form of DC films that are released. We only really seem to be getting comedic comic book movies, and serious films are really left on the side. If DC movies were 70% serious films and 30% comedic, then I think that makes for a much better contrast. It would differentiate DC from Marvel far more than they are right now, and would also engage audiences in a way that has been missing for quite some time now. I think another problem I have with comedic DC films is that I don't find the jokes funny. They feel overused and quite lazy. There's no intelligence or dry humor in them. They're all just the same level and type of immature humor. If the jokes were better, I wouldn't find it as frustrating to have them constantly being used in these movies. But because I don't think they're funny and they're just being used all the time, it becomes frustrating and predictable. The amount of times I've seen a DC movie have a scene where a serious moment is being built up, and then it's shot down by a character saying a joke is just so annoying. There's a chance to have a redeemable moment, or a chance for a character arc to develop, or even to just feel the danger of the situation the characters are in. But instead, they resort to a joke because they are too immature to deal with any serious moment, and that feels so overused. The latest DC film Blue Beetle actually managed to not do this, and it's something I really loved. We were able to stay in the sad moments without a stupid joke being made. It made that actual scene a lot stronger than if a joke had been shoved in there. But I really think the quality of the humor in superhero films has massively decreased, and there is a major oversaturation of humor in these films. It's a horrible trend in recent years that has hurt DC and Marvel. It's like whoever is forcing in these jokes just prioritizes persistent humor over storytelling, and when a film does that, I lose interest. Because then it becomes clear what the storytellers are actually doing. It feels they are too immature to take moments seriously. And like I said, I know not every DC character is serious. I just think they should make more DC films with serious characters and serious situations, because I believe they feel far more unique than what we are getting at the moment. And I think general audiences will be able to see a clear identity being created. The only reason why I've been watching these comedic DC films is because they're connected to the DCEU, which is meant to be telling a larger story that I'm invested in. If they were solo films disconnected from any cinematic universe, I probably wouldn't watch them at all, as they don't really appeal to me. It's the fear of missing out that keeps me watching. I also think it would make the overall superhero genre better. I think Marvel was at its best when it had to compete with DC at the box office, which was when DC was more serious. DC and Marvel approaching superheroes in two different ways also allowed a much better balance. That's actually why I loved both as much as I did when they were in their primes, because I knew I was getting something different when watching each franchise. I could watch a top-tier Marvel film and have a laugh whilst also taking the film seriously, and then head over to DC to watch a far more serious movie with far little jokes. I really loved the contrast. And I think general audiences did too. I think DC being so different to Marvel but still making a lot at the box office forced Marvel to up their game, and the drop-off DC had since 2019 has allowed Marvel to become relaxed, no longer having to compete, so no longer having to make as good films. So now we have a huge imbalance in the comic book movie genre. It's now an extreme rarity to get a serious comic book movie. The Batman and Joker are the only ones in recent years, and they both financially succeeded at the box office, which could be argued because of how popular those two characters are, but I think a big part of that is because of the tone of the movies. They were unique, extremely unique to the majority of comic book films released in recent years. So overall, I believe DC needs to get back to making serious movies. They are the films that I care most about and the ones that I think have the most rewatch value. I feel comedic DC films are becoming lazy and generic, and without these serious films being released to contrast against them, DC will crumble and become forgettable. At least, that is my opinion. Make sure to let me know what you think about this video in the comments below. But that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I hope to see you here again soon, so until then, have a great day. Bye!